So we have got all the basics down. The pawns are kind of tricky because they have extra elements that no other piece has. We're going to dive into those elements right now. The first thing we're going to talk about is pawn promotion. I told you you're going to find out how Pawn Dexter became great. He was the first pawn to reach rank 8. So here's the deal. Any pawn on their first move can move 1 or 2 squares. We talked about these things. But here's what's most interesting about the pawns. If this pawn is able to march across the board and get to the other side of the board, bad move, I know, just as an example. We will have plenty of other pieces up here in the real game. This is just an example of what can happen. If a pawn is able to march to the other end of the board, he is able to take on the power of any piece that he wants. He can take on the power of a knight, a bishop, a rook, a queen. But he cannot take on the power of the king, he cannot become a king, and he cannot remain a pawn. So he has to promote, he has to change, he has to become something else. He has to evolve. He takes on the power most likely of the queen, then he can move around the board as the queen. If you have an extra queen around, you put the queen in that square and allow that pawn to now have to possess the power of the queen. So you would take the pawn off of the board, you would put the queen on the board. The pawn will go to your opponent. That is pawn promotion. If any pawn makes it to the other end of the board, it can take on the power of any piece that it wants. All right, the second thing that we're going to talk about is en passant. En passant is a very tricky, very slick move in chess. A lot of people don't know about en passant. It's a few centuries old now. It is added on in the game of chess after they added on the fact that the pawns can move 2 squares. It wasn't always so. There was a time where pawns were only able to move 1 square at a time, period. But when they added on the 2 square move, then they added on en passant eventually, which in French means in passing. So this was added around the 15th century, and it's a very cool move. It'll put you ahead of the game a little bit. A lot of people don't know about it. So here's how it works. Bottom line is this. First of all, you have to be on your 5th rank. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This would be the 5th rank for vanilla. That will put you in position to do en passant. Chocolate would have to be on its 5th rank. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Chocolate would have to be here to get in position for en passant. So here's what it looks like. So let's say that pawn moved up 2 squares. This pawn moved here. This pawn moved up another square. He has now reached his 5th rank. He is in position to do en passant. Remember, it's called in passing in French. Now here's what's happening. You can do en passant if the opponent's pawn, it's only a pawn-to-pawn thing too. If the opponent's pawn moves 2 squares next to you, adjacent to you, now at this point, I can take this pawn, go behind the pawn, and capture him. All right, let's look at that again. I know that's tricky. First of all, I have to be in position. I'm on my 5th rank. Once I'm in position, if the enemy pawn moves 2 squares next to me, here's what's happening. Right now, my pawn is attacking c6 and e6. Those squares are under attack. But this pawn says, you know what? I'm not going to even give you a chance to, I'm not going to stop here so you can karate chop me, man. Why would I want to do that? He says. He says, I'm just going to go right past your pawn. I'm going to go right next to you. What are you going to do about it? Well, he didn't know that this pawn had a secret weapon. That because he passed my line of attack, I can now go behind him and take him. Now, in this exact circumstance, I'll just get captured back. It's not going to do me too much good. But there will come a time when this move can make or break you. It can make the difference in the game. There are some rules that we have to remember. 1, you have to be in position. You have to be on your 5th rank. 2, the opponent must move past your line of attack and move 2 squares, not giving you a chance to capture, and he must move directly next to you. All right, this cannot happen in a situation where you're head to head and you want to just slap. No, that's not how this goes down. You have to be in position. They have to pass your line of attack, move adjacent to you before you can go behind them and take. The third condition is you have to do it immediately after the pawn moves next to you. For instance, if you do this, the pawn moves next to you, you decide to move another pawn, and they decide to move another pawn. You go, oh, I want to Passant. No, can't do it like that. You have to do it immediately when the pawn moves next to you. Those are the conditions. That is Passant. It's a beautiful move. Learn it, practice it. If you have any questions, ask me.